In this tutorial, we're going to look at how to take a BVH file from your Mocap system. We're going to split it up into small individual moves. We're going to clean up the moves. We're going to reassemble it in a different order, and we're going to send it back to Maya for doing whatever else you want to do with it. So before we start, let's just set up a folder in our asset browser here with all our data in. So just right click somewhere in this part, go add favorite path, browse to the path that I've got set up, and you'll see now I've got a Mocap tutorial folder here, and in here are the two files that I'm interested in working with. This one is the BVH file that's come from the Mocap system, and this one is my rigged character which I sent through from Maya. So I'm just going to drag my BVH file into the window, choose BVH import, and here you can see is my Mocap file. Now this is recorded at 100 FPS. I'm going to change MotionBuilder's playback speed to PAL because that's 25 frames per second, which is what I want to finish up with. And when we recorded the Mocap, we recorded it at 100 FPS because it divides down nicely to 25. You can see there, there's quite a lot. There's the initial T-pose. The Mocap system we're using automatically puts a T-pose on frame 0 to help you set MotionBuilder up. It's very important to have a T-pose because that's how MotionBuilder recognizes a character. Once we press play, you can see there's a little bit of just stood around waiting for a little while, and then we get the dance any second now. So to work with the BVH data, first of all we have to characterize it because everything in MotionBuilder needs characterizing. Characterizing is just a posh way of saying, of telling MotionBuilder which bones do what. So the way to do that, we go down to our characters template folder here, and we drag a character onto the scene. And as soon as we do that, we get our character definition panel come up here. Now it's very easy to set this up. Basically what we're doing is, if you look at the different objects in the scene, I'll just expand it up here in the navigator. If I expand all of those, expand branches, you can see in here the entire structure of the BVH file that came in, and you can see that each one is named. Well, the names that MotionBuilder expects are listed here, and you can see it expects them to be called hips, left up leg, and so on. Well, I've got one called hips in the BVH file, but the naming convention that my Mocap software uses is different. So instead of left up leg, it's called left hip, and I need to tell it what each one of those is. Now I can do that by dragging them from here into here. The much easier way is over here in the character definition window. So I'm going to double click on the hip bone and then go in and select the hips. And you can see now it says that the one called hips is connected to BVH hips, which is a bone that's come from the BVH file. I'll double click on the right leg there and come and choose the right thigh bone, and you can see it's automatically mirrored those because this mirror mode here is switched on, which means I'm doing half the work. So do this one to here, this one to here. It's a little bit difficult to select them in the viewport sometimes. And then to do the toes, as you can see I've got toes on here, I've got to expand up the feet view and choose the toes. Now if you've only got one toe like we have here, the best thing to do is to actually use the big toe. So I'm going to double click on that one, but notice now the view's changed as well. I'm in this close-up view, so I'm now talking about the left toe here, so I need to be careful to select the left toe on my character. And you can see that both the left and the right toe have been selected. Go back up to body view, and we'll look at the spine next. So the first spine bone here needs to be double clicked, and then I'll click the next spine bone. Don't be fooled and select the hips again. That's a common mistake. Choose the spine bone here. and then go into this little button here to expand out and put the rest of the spine bones in. So the next spine bone is this one, and then this one, and then this one at the top. Quite often people call it the rib cage. It's part of the spine. Come back out of that mode. Now that's set up. So now I've got shoulders and arms. So to get the shoulders, I need to go into this little view here. It's potential for 2 shoulder bones, but I just need to pick the first one because I've only got one. And you'll notice it automatically does the opposite side as well and flips into the opposite view to show you that that's done. Double click on the right upper arm and choose that one, and the forearm and the hand, and then move up a little bit more. We've just got the neck to do, so expand up the neck view, and again I only need to use one neck bone, so I choose the bottom one, put in the neck bone, come out of there, double click the head and choose the head bone. So you can see from the green button here that everything has gone well. If your T-pose isn't quite accurate, that might come up yellow, but it's pretty good, so we're happy with that. Now if I look back down here in my character definition, you can see now that these have all been converted. So left up leg is now left hip, left leg is now left knee. So this is the naming convention from my BVH file, and this is the naming convention that MotionBuilder expects. Now what I don't want to have to do is I don't want to have to go through this process every time, so I'm going to extract this as a naming template which I can use next time I bring a BVH file in to save all this backwards and forwards from the definition window to the skeleton. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to characterize it. Well, I can do that in 2 ways. I can lock the character here and just choose biped. I can get exactly the same effect by ticking the characterize box there. Lock up here in the definition window means exactly the same as characterize down here. Okay, so now I've done that, it goes to my control setup, which I can use later on for cleaning up the animation and so on. But in order to get this data out, I'm just going to go extract naming template here and just do OK, and we'll see in the naming template now lists the names here that I'm going to be required to match over to the MotionBuilder names. And then I want to save this out so I can use it as a template. So if I just go to character, make sure the character is selected down here, and then go File, Save Selection, and I'm going to call it MVN BVH. MVN because that's the motion capture system I used, and BVH because it's a BVH file, and then I'll call it naming template. So anytime I've got a BVH file that was generated by the MVN system, I can just bring this naming template back in and use it quickly. So if I click save there, and just save that, I now have in my Mocap tutorial folder, right click and refresh directory there, you can see I now have my naming template in there as well. Now I'm going to actually show you how to use that naming template. So at this stage you don't need to do this, but let's imagine I've moved on to the next BVH file. So let's bring in a new BVH, we'll bring in a BVH file here, BVH import, and now I want to use my naming template to characterize it as quickly as possible. So I just drag my naming template into the scene, FBX merge, no animation, just OK that. And then down here I've got a character, and in my scene I've got my BVH file. So I'm just going to click on the character, I'm going to drag it onto the hips from my BVH file and click characterize there, choose biped, and now I've done exactly the same definition that I did with all that toing and froing to the definition panel over there. So I now have a characterized character. Now this is already called BVH because it was a BVH file that came in. I'm just going to call this character BVH as well so that they have the same name. So click rename there, choose BVH there. Just means I know which one is which. Now, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to do my mocap cleanup directly on the data here. I'm going to do it on my actual character, and the reason is because I want to make sure that my character doesn't have intersections where the arms go into the body, that my character's feet moves are tidied up and so on, so that I know that this motion data works on that character. That's the whole point of cleaning it up. So next thing to do is to bring the character in. Bring in this character as a merge with no animation on. If I go to display, put X-ray on, you can see she comes in with the skeleton. She's pre-skinned. She's skinned badly because I just did a quick job of it in Maya and never bothered to go on and paint the weights or whatever. It's just a very rough skin. So this character now also needs to be characterized. And if I go into my scene setup, you can see that from Maya it's brought in a whole bunch of stuff. I'm just going to rename these a little bit so it makes a little bit more sense. So this one at the moment is called female. If we look inside it, it's got all of the maps for the materials on the character. So I'm just going to right click on that one and rename that one as dancer mesh, because it's the dancer's mesh. Character 5, for some reason it's brought in an extra reference node, so we just delete that one because we don't need it, just to keep the scene nice and clean. And on this one here, they're all called character 6. I can't do anything about that, but what I can do is I can put them in a namespace, which is the same thing as BVH here with the little colon. So I right click on that and go add remove namespace. I'll just add in a new namespace called dancer. Make sure I'm on the add tab and apply to branch, and then OK that. And now you can see that each one of these is prefixed with the namespace dancer. Just keeps everything neat and tidy. Can't get rid of the character 6, that's just something that came through from Maya when I sent it into MotionBuilder. So everything's named nicely. What I now have to do is to characterize my new character. So I've got the hips here. Just go on to the characters template, and because this has been sent from Maya specifically into MotionBuilder, the naming conventions are all correct. I can just drag my character, instead of dragging it into here, I can drag it right onto the hips in the hierarchy, click characterize, and it will recognize all the names and characterize it for me. Going to my characters rollout now, I've got one called BVH. I'm going to rename this one as dancer, just to keep everything consistent. If I double click on dancer, you can see it's characterized as expected. What I also want to do though to enable me to do the editing is to create a control rig. So click create control rig, choose FKIK, and now she has a control rig which enables me to do the animation. Now I've got the dancer here, I want to get the animation from the BVH file onto the dancer. So I can actually control the dancer from a variety of different sources. At the moment she's controlled from the control rig, which isn't doing anything. But if I go up here and choose BVH, I can actually control her from the BVH file, and you can see now she does whatever the BVH file does. In order to edit that, I want to plot out the animation from that onto the control rig that I've already got created. So with my dancer character still selected down here, I'm just going to go on to character settings. You can see the input source here is BVH, which is exactly the same as this source up here. And then I'm going to choose plot character and plot that animation onto her control rig. Make sure they're both at the same speed, so 25 FPS for like I've got for the rest of the scene, and just go plot. I'll think for a second, and now I will have my control rig actually animated. So I'm in a good position now because the control rig has all the BVH animation data on it. I can use the control rig for cleaning up the mocap data and cutting it up and splicing it up into bits and saving it out. And that's what I'm going to do next. What I'm going to do first of all though is just clean my scene up a bit because I don't need this BVH skeleton in there anymore. So I'm just going to go in I choose my BVH reference here, right click and go select branches to select everything that BVH reference has underneath it, and then I'm going to right click again and choose delete. Just OK to that. Then it's asking me if I want to delete the character, which is the characterization that I've done on the BVH rig. Well, yeah, might as well delete that as well. And yes to all on that. And that's going to clean out everything related to that original BVH file. And down here now you can see that I only have one character, which is called dancer. I still have my dancer mesh. I still have the dancer skeleton hierarchy in there. And I have a control rig in here as well. Just going to expand up that control rig, rename that one as dancer as well, so that I know everything is consistent. So my control rig is called dancer, my character is called dancer, mesh is called dancer mesh, and all the skeleton associated to the dancer up here is also called dancer, and everything is nice and consistent. At this point it's a great idea to save, so I'm going to do File, Save As, straight into my folder, and I'm going to call this, she's called Fashion Model Girl, but I'm just going to call her Dancer Rig Plotted. As a name which means that I know this is ready to go for any cleanup and everything else. So I'll click Save there. Just click Save there. And now in the next tutorial we're going to see how to cut that up into bits and start cleaning up the data.